Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm just gonna give a couple moments here for people to join the live. Assalamu alaikum. Oh, there's our guest. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us in our first live of 2022 of the Black Muslimahs Shining series. So good to see peeps and hope everyone is keeping well, inshallah. My name is Zahra Grant. I'm a national board member of the CCMW national team, and I'm really excited for what we have in store tonight. So again, this live is part of our Black Muslimahs Shining series, which is an effort to center and amplify the voices of Black Muslim women who are doing amazing work in our communities and whose important contributions often go both historically and contemporarily unrecognized, denied, and unrecognized. So in an effort to change that narrative, we're trying to amplify and center the voices of Black Muslim women. So thank you so much for CCMW for the platform to do this. It's so important and necessary. Throughout Black History Month, you may have noticed that CCMW has been posting women as part of the series, and they will continue to post spotlights throughout Women's History Month as well. Archives of these profiles can be found on the CCMW website and can hopefully, inshallah, act as a resource and documentation of the amazing work that Black Muslim women are doing within Canada. So as part of these series, we're doing lives as well, and I'm really excited to have our guest tonight, Hadar Muhammad, or Mahamoud, sorry if I pronounced that wrong. She's from the Digital Sisterhood, and I've been a huge fan of the Digital Sisterhood since they started up, I believe, sometime last year. So we're going to be getting into their work. I'm just going to attempt to connect her. It looks a little different from when I did lives last time, so have some patience with me, and I'm going to try and get her connected. Oh, she already sent me one, so I think this is pretty easy. Assalamu alaikum, Hadar. Hadar?
Hello,
Assalamu
wa alaikum
alaikum.
salam. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, so good to see you, sis. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us tonight.
It's honestly my pleasure. I'm so glad that CCMW has me here. I'm just so honored, honestly, truly.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So we're going to get into it, but first let me, for those of you who don't know Hadar, I'm pronouncing it right, Hadar?
Adar, adar.
Hadar, and she's from the Digital Sisterhood. She is the founder of the Digital Sisterhood, which is a Toronto faith-based storytelling platform that aims to unite Black Muslim women in their experiences in holding intersectional identities. The Digital Sisterhood podcast, the most popular content features, connects listeners from around the globe, and is ranked around the top religion and spirituality podcasts in Canada, the UK, USA, Australia, and many more, drawing from topics of love, grief, faith, and spirituality, and overcoming life's obstacles. And each episode speaks to the courage for one who is sharing and the one who is listening. That's really beautiful, mashallah. And now, as I was preparing for these lives, we were kind of thinking of following some themes around honoring heritage and community. And in preparing for tonight and engaging with you and the work that the Digital Sisterhood is doing, I was sort of reflecting on the history of oral traditions in our community. And as Muslims, oral tradition is very important. This isn't a concept that is foreign to Muslims, and it's something that continues to be very commonplace among many African and Indigenous communities. So when I think of these histories of being sort of part and parcel of the trajectories of our futures, Black futures, I thought, it's a really cool concept because it's sort of a continuation of that, but within the future with, social and digital media. So we can kind of conceptualize podcasting as sort of a modern day oral tradition, right? So that enables us to connect and create new communities and build ummah across boundaries, with the exception that not everybody has access to the internet, and that's very important as well to address. But this is part of our emergent futures that we're building right now in this moment, and you are a huge part of that, mashallah. And the success of the Digital Sisterhood, I think, speaks to that. So I'm really excited to dig in a little bit with you.
I'm very, very.
So inshallah, sorry?
I'm very, very excited.
Inshallah, yeah, let's get into it. So Hadar, in one of your very first episodes of the podcast, you spoke about being inspired to be a storyteller by your grandmother,
Yes.
who, yes, mashallah, big up the grandmother. And your relationship was sort of very much founded around when, you would go to her for advice and whatnot. She would use stories to sort of connect and comfort you in the effort to make you feel less alone. And I thought that was really, really beautiful, mashallah. And now you're here with your podcast and a devout following, continuing the tradition of sharing stories. So what would you say were your sort of intentions when you first got the idea to start a podcast? And, yeah, how did you come about it?
Well, the podcast actually started in the middle of the pandemic, early on in the pandemic. And so, I was at home like most people were at the time, tickling my fingers, trying to fight seasonal depression at the time because it was winter as well, and just trying to figure out how I could stay and remain inspired. And because we were no longer able to go to the masjid or go into gatherings or see family members, right, where you can have discussions and conversations with. So it kind of got lonely a little bit, and I think a lot of people felt that way. So I come from a household of huge storytellers. My mom is also a storyteller. She does this poetry called type of poetry in Somalia where it's called Brambur, where she tells stories of families and tribes and stuff like that. She does it through or she sings it. My grandmother was already one of those things, so I came from a long line of women who are very big storytellers, and so it's not really shocking that I'm now doing the same elements in podcasting, which honestly seems like the same thing. Is just with technology helping you broadcast storytelling. It's really the same. It's just technology has advanced us in that way. But I wanted to personally, it was kind of the intention was a personal one. I personally was looking to hear stories that were uplifting because I was going through my own thing at the time, and obviously being isolated, I just like, okay, well, there's other ways that I can hear stories. I can, read books, or I can, but I was missing that element where I felt like I was around people. Like I missed seeing someone tell me their story and watching their body, like, or just even hearing their voice. And so I was like, what if I started a podcast with my friend Muna Sheikh Ahmed, who reached out to me. She's like, hey, listen, we should do a podcast. We should do a storytelling podcast. We should add some of our traditions in it, and we should interview stories that uplift us. And so the first season was just women around me.
Mashallah.
I had access to, right? Because it's sometimes, people telling you stories is a personal one, right? Not everyone is open to telling you their story. But the stories that I had around me were most stories that I knew personally, a little bit of it, but I had never got to like ask them, hey, could we have a full conversation about this story? And so having that recorded, it felt like it was the first time I was ever hearing it. And here was that I got to share that conversation. And I obviously wanted to be more than an interview. So it wasn't like me just interviewing, but we had narrations on top of it. So it kind of felt like you were listening to a story. So it can encourage people's imagination to think and put themselves in the guest's shoes. I love stories like that. I'm kind of I like stories that start off with once upon a time. That kind of vibe.
Yes. I love it. I love it. Mashallah, that is so beautiful. And actually, one of the things that I really, really appreciate about the podcast is the range of stories you offer. You have personal stories, you have practical stories that is like giving advice. You have some that are very light and funny, that I'm like laughing the whole way through. Then you have some that are a little bit more heavy, tackling topics that, are not so easy to talk about and haven't historically been talked about. So the representation you offer, I appreciate that it's far from being a monolith. So why is that important to you in how you craft the podcast and your storytelling to really provide this sort of range?
Yeah, absolutely. I think our big thing in the beginning is that we wanted to document and share the experiences of just a human experience. Right? We laugh 1 minute and then we're crying and then we're and then we're having all of those moments sometimes simultaneously, right? Because that was part of the human experience. And so the podcast, obviously, if someone's telling you their story, it's both hard, it's something that might have passed, and still has an open wound to it, and there's still the element of like, laughing, because I find that a lot of especially people in Somalia laugh at their pain like it's nobody's business. We like to just make light of it. It's kind of how we cope. And there's also joke as well that I'm the goat at laughing and crying at the same time. So it's like you hear me laugh and I'm actually
I feel that the more jokes I'm making, the more I'm deep in it.
I'm just crying because I feel it, but I just laugh at myself because I'm just like, this is just life. This is life, what life has to offer, and sometimes just laughing just eases that pain. So in one episode, like people, there's a running joke where people say, on an episode, I will both laugh, cry, and all these things in one go. Like, Ada, you make me feel like a mad woman. I said, these episodes are reflective of actually what you experience on a regular, you know? And so I think it was really important for us to document that human experience, and showing the range of stories and how stories can do all of those things and more for us, and really being authentic to it. You know, it's the range. It's the range of Muslim women. It's the range of human experience, and we were very, 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 very serious about documenting it and showing its true light. So that was very,
Yeah.
very, very important to us.
Yes, and I think that's what resonates with your listeners, right? Because that range, it's that everybody can find connection
Mm-hmm.
in the work you're doing, right? And that connection helps people feel less alone, whether it's the light stuff or the hard stuff, right? Knowing that you're not alone is such a comfort in such isolating times too, right? With the pandemic. So I think your podcast was really timely. It came at a time when people were looking for that connection and needing that connection, and mashallah, you really provided it.
Yeah.
So one thing I will say as well is that the Digital Sisterhood has not shied away at all from, what would be hard or considered taboo topics. You do so unapologetically.
Yep.
So now I want a little tea, okay? I want a little tea. Which episodes would you say have been the most controversial? And, give us a little bit of I'm sure you have lots, but give us a little taste of some of the backlash stories, the DMs or the inbox rant that come to you.
SubhanAllah, I haven't experienced, none of my team have even experienced really backlash in a negative way.
Okay.
If anything, we gotten we've gotten a lot more shocks, wow, I didn't even know that someone was experiencing this, or that people heard a story that they thought would never be on a microphone. They never thought the story would be on a microphone and being given a day and a voice to it, where people would reach out saying, oh my God, I cannot believe you told this story.
Wow,
I knew they were saying that because it was their story.
Oh, mashallah.
It's their story. So in the episode for that one was, which is so sad, because honestly, every time I had people react and say, SubhanAllah, thank you for telling this story, I feel like it's because there's some semblance of connection they have with it. But the episode that we got a lot of reaction from, that I can pinpoint, that really had me reflecting, was Sabrine's episode, which her episode called Her Coming of Strength, where she talked about trigger warning sexual violence. And so and she was young, right? She was really, and she talked about the magnitude of it. And I could not imagine, I could not even tell you the amount of women that tell us, thank you for telling this story.
Mashallah,
which is amazing, and it makes me so sad to see the number at the same time. That it's so rapid, and so many of them asking, can I please talk to her? I just want 2 minutes. I just want to say something. I just need to ask her something, and obviously, alhamdulillah, Sabrina was always so kind and generous, so she always offered her she made another Instagram account. She's not on social media, so people could reach out to her. And I just, I don't, it's a double-edged sword. It makes me sad. It really does. Yeah. Very, very sad that that many women felt so alienated and so alone. And they were 13. I'm talking about 12-year-olds. I'm talking about 11-year-olds. And it's just it makes me want to tell more. It's also a moral responsibility at the same time. I recognize every day how much of a responsibility it is to tell the correct messaging, and that we're not leaving people at a really, because sometimes stories can leave you at a low.
Yes.
We can just stay there, and that's not a good place to stay either. And so it was something for us to take note. Alhamdulillah, a number of stories had ended up that way. There's always an up. But it's just, the backlash wasn't even a backlash. It was more like a shock for ourselves to know the depth. Sometimes you don't really know the totality in this community in particular. Muslim women of color How many of
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we don't know those numbers, or it's not completely aware of something, because obviously there's so much stigma around it. And a lot of women obviously are, hiding those parts, and are suffering alone,
Yep.
So it was a very huge surprise. Another episode that was also a surprise was when the cat lady found true love. And that episode was a surprise because she was first of all, she was a fantastic storyteller, and first I ever heard her story on the mic, so I was reacting in real time. I remember, I remember when our episode came out, we had delayed part 2 for 2 weeks, and people were tired of our crap. They said, "Why is it taking so long? We're waiting for part 2. Oh my God, don't do us like this." And we've never felt so much pressure to have an episode out ASAP in any other episode. People are anticipating part 2 so much. I was like, this is giving me intense vibes. Like, it was really like on the wire. I was like, now it's moving like a Netflix show. Like, everyone. I was like, this is actually subhanAllah, it was a beautiful reaction though. And one that like ended up having the same rhythm. So now anytime we're late on an episode, we get DMs of
You get DMs.
sometimes women telling me, "Get your life, stop delaying these episodes."
That's
and then
so funny.
from all over the world, and sometimes they send voice notes. Like, they want you to know. I just want to know you respectfully, and they talk to me at first. Respectfully, Adar, we're really annoyed. Respectfully, you know, this episode out, and I just die of laughter because you know what, you're absolutely right. Well, inshallah, try to meet their needs, but those are little episodes that, like, honestly, kind of, I was able to kind of connect with my audience more because of their reactions, and it kind of it put me on the right path of like, okay, how do I want to participate in changing women's lives? How do I want to participate? What do I want to say? What do I want to highlight? What voices need to be amplified? And really put those episodes in particular. There's many, by the way, so many, like
so many
room, and like, because you don't often hear like Black women even talk about like surviving cancer, because there's also stigma around that in some African cultures, right? You hide what you're suffering from. Then society or that cult or the background will think, oh, you're just incapable, of running your own life and stuff. So there's a lot of taboo, and we were trying to break all of these stigmas everywhere. And alhamdulillah, I think a lot of people might assume they might have negative backlash, but only had positive.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. I'm really happy to hear that. So that wasn't really tea. That was more like hot chocolate.
Yeah. You know what? I hate to tell you, there is no tea. What is there?
But that's actually really encouraging, because I mean, talking about a lot of these things like sexual violence in our community, that has been so taboo, and it is very common. I mean, literally almost every woman I know has some sort of incident of some sort, right? So the fact that we're able to start talking about these things and know that it's a point of connection now and not a point of reaction necessarily, where it's like, shh, we don't talk about these things. These aren't, let's bury these things. And that shows that as a community, maybe we are healing,
Feels like,
and that's beautiful. That's beautiful, because we need something to hope and to hold on to and to look forward to. So there's lots of work to do, but I'm really encouraged to hear you say that that even the more taboo topics have been very receptive and well received. So mashallah, I'm really happy to hear that.
We were nervous too, we thought there would be something, but alhamdulillah, none. Like, at least I have not seen it. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, at least you haven't seen it, which is good. So maybe those who do want to give a little side eye and judge, they're keeping quiet because they know they have no stance, right? So alhamdulillah for that as well.
When the guests are being vulnerable and they're sharing their stories out of charity, there's
that's beautiful.
And they don't owe you your story. You know what I'm saying? And so that was something that we always drive home. These people don't owe you your story. They're telling the story for the sake of Allah.
Mashallah.
So they come in with such integrity and respect, right?
Beautiful.
And so that's understood. And I think that's just they got it. Either they understand or they remain silent, which either way is good for me. You know what I mean?
Exactly. People got to be wherever they're at, and even if they're just listening and saying nothing, that's really important as well. So on a more wholesome note, then, what would you say has been one of your more fun episodes, or where you learned something in a more fun way, and why?
Oh my God, what was a fun episode? Oh my God, they were all fun though. They were all
They're all fun.
because the whole thing, the whole
Or maybe unexpectedly,
oh
like I never thought I would engage with this story in this way, and like,
God, that's a
you
good
know.
one. You know what I would say though? I'm not gonna lie.
Though,
Narrate my narrations. Like I could talk about like the episode that I'm so proud of. Like I feel like I did.
there we go. That's a good one.
You know,
What's the one
I
you're
thought
most
that I
proud of?
did. Like I did the narrations great and it went really well. And when I listened to it, I'm like, wow, this is like I did. All the guests always do phenomenal. But do I always think
Yeah.
I'm the best? I don't know. Like that's debatable. Even though some people might tell me no, you're great, but I really liked how the narration episodes went out for when the cat lady found true love. Till this
Okay.
day, I listen to. I'm like, wow. Like I just was like, I really killed this narration. That's crazy. Like I'm in the car. People are listening to the content. I'm looking at, oh wow, I didn't stutter here. I did this because it's so much a learning experience for me. I'm never podcasted before.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh, really?
I've done radio.
What about interviews or anything like that? Nothing like that?
And
No. Okay.
I did none of that. This was just me vibing.
I love it.
I have no
I love it.
have any background experience in any of this. So for me, it was a little daunting. And there's actually like a recording that when it has of me, the first time I ever went on the microphone. And I said, I'm really uncomfortable. Like you can hear me saying, wow, I'm gonna like, and I didn't know I was being recorded. But I'm telling her how uncomfortable I feel to hear my own voice.
Mm.
When it responds and says like, but that's empowering, and
Yep.
that's how we're gonna do this. You're gonna own your voice, and you're gonna love your voice, and you're gonna encourage other women to own their voices and love their voices. I was like, oh my gosh, so I have to tackle myself. I have to rectify those things about me. And I was like, okay. And I was doing it throughout the season. I was growing.
I love it. I love it. We're healing all over the place up in here. I love it. I love it.
It's simultaneously everywhere. It's just.
And I gotta go find that episode because I don't think I've listened to that one. The Cat Lady Finds Love. I'm queuing that up.
That one, and that one, bro. I'm not gonna lie. That's the one that makes me proud. Like I just sit there like nobody can tell me nothing about this episode.
Inshallah, we will get on that.
I even remember leaving that day in the studio, and Jonathan's like, "Wow, you should feel really good about yourself because that was really good." Because usually, like my takes take a while. Sometimes they're hard cuts. Sometimes I'm like, sometimes I'll leave the studio feeling like I could have done better. I had so many moments where I was focusing on my skill, and stories the best way. But that week, bro, I felt like Beyonce. I left
girl.
myself, went on I said, nobody could talk to me. I ordered myself the venti coffee at Starbucks. I was treating myself. I said, today you did a good day's work.
You deserve it. You deserve it. I love it. So inshallah, we're coming up now on what? Because I feel like it started around springish, right? So you're coming up on almost maybe when you're 1 year.
Here, April 15th will be the year of the podcast, yeah.
Wow, mashallah, congratulations. We're so proud of you and can hope to see more success, inshallah, now that you've gotten into your groove. You're comfortable. Now you could really expand. Inshallah, what do you kind of see now in the future? What can we expect from the Digital Sisterhood?
Well, season 2. Everybody is anticipating season 2, and it's coming out the first week of Ramadan. And started last Ramadan. Actually, we started 2 weeks into Ramadan, but we started Ramadan. And so this we're going to start Ramadan again. So it's kind of our trend. So season 2 is anticipated. It's very anticipated. And I finally am back in the studio recording, and I hadn't been there in a few months. So I was like, oh my God, I forgot how to do this. I was like, I have to get back my groove. And I was like, oh my God, I have to learn this quick. But it's been great because like all the stories this year are so interesting. And it's like taken to another level, mashallah. And I'm just like, wow, it's like this is it's hitting everywhere, mashallah. So season 2 is something to look forward to. Vibe Check is officially going to be, we made a card game for those who are courting.
Ooh, fun.
Somebody for marriage, and it's a game that includes Islamic values. So it's like it's tailored for Muslims. So it's easy,
mashallah.
Feels inclusive, and that we sold our first pre-sale in October. And that sold out. It was great. And now we're getting it. And now it's going back on the shop for purchase. So that's going to be something that's coming up real soon. And what else is coming up? A lot of things are coming out. We're exploring other mediums, because TDS is a startup, so we're a digital storytelling
Okay.
startup. So the podcast was the first project we ever did. We're hoping to do other projects like animation films. We're
Ooh, I'm a big anime fan.
Yeah, so we're looking to make faith-based animation. Um,
Oh, I love it.
Black women and center.
Inshallah.
We're hopefully
That's dope.
we're also gonna get into NFTs. We're gonna create our own NFT collection because TDS
I
also.
still don't understand that, but big up yourself.
Yeah,
I'll do it if you're doing it.
that's a whole other place. And one thing I'm most excited about, two things I'm most excited about, is TDS is gonna maybe possibly early next year do a TDS tour
Mm.
where we're
Oh,
going
that's
to,
cool.
yeah, we're gonna do maybe one or two huge countries, and we're gonna do like and it's gonna be like a show. It's gonna be a
Inshallah.
show. Basically, we want to basically do the podcast live. You know, it's
Love
an
it.
interesting way, including animation art, to tell
I
us.
love it.
So we're trying to do a couple of things.
I love it.
A
I
lot to
love
look
it.
forward to, inshallah. Just trying to
Inshallah.
tell one story at a time. You know.
I love it. It's so beautiful. So what now? Let's flip it. What can we as a community who are here to support you, what are some ways we can do that?
If anything, honestly, our whole goal has always been, was to empower other women, men and women, boys and girls, to, do the thing that makes them uncomfortable. Get into art if they want to, get into podcasts if they want to, and without having to compromise their identity, without having to compromise their faith. I feel like sometimes you feel like you have to do both. You have to compromise both to get anywhere, to be recognized, appreciated, but that's not true. You're already appreciated. You know what I'm saying? You're already valued. Your perspective is valuable. All of the things that you think are an issue, like your identity and your faith, is what makes you incredibly special. It makes you incredible an incredible individual in general. And to have art and work, whatever it may be, reflect those things is literally what's going to change the world. So don't be afraid of things. Own
Absolutely. And our art is our mercy
it.
from Allah that we can create and connect through these mediums. That is a mercy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. And which of the
Yeah.
favors of our Lord will you deny? Definitely not that.
Absolutely. And I'm a big
So,
believer of Allah has given all of us gifts. We all have gifts. And so the question
so tap
always
in.
remains, what do you use your gift for? Are you using it for wrong things, or are you using them for good things? Are you using them for Allah's sake, or are you using it for other than Allah's sake? And so the question remains, everyone has a gift. How are you using it? If it's your voice, how are you using it? If it's your art, how are you using it? If it's your connect, like, how are you using your talent? How are you using your gift?
Yeah, and your gifts.
Yeah. And so I just want people to own their gifts and use it for good.
That's so, so beautiful. So inshallah, those were the questions I had for you tonight. It was so nice to engage. Is there any final comments? Does anybody that's listening in have any questions they want to ask? I'll be happy to read them out if you have any. If there's anything else you want to plug, Heather, please feel free. Where can we find you? Maybe might be helpful for anybody who's not familiar with you. I probably should have pinned a comment with your...
No,
but I didn't do that.
They can find us on Instagram at The Digital Sisterhood. You can find me on Twitter at The Digital Sis.
Okay.
You can find our website at www.thedigitalsisterhood.com. Honestly, if you write Digital Sisterhood anywhere, even on TikTok, you can find us. And
nice.
Yeah, just The Digital Sisterhood. Plug us in, you'll find us.
Okay, so I do have one question that came in. It says, how do you find your guests?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Or choose your guests.
We don't
from Art of Being Yoga.
Yeah, we don't find our guests. Our guests find us.
MashaAllah. Oh, divine.
Our big mantra has always been that Allah SWT introduces us. So like sometimes we find them by accident on a Sunday afternoon at the grocery store. Or sometimes I get emails. Sometimes I get DMs of sisters saying, hey, I have a story. And they share their story. Let's do a pre-interview. Let's do it. So it's just, we're always taking stories,
It's very organic, it seems.
Very organic. Oh my God, so organic. Because this whole thing is about organic, be authentic.
Yes, so, mashallah.
And like the team and I like to look at it like this. We are at service for the people, And so if they come and they want to tell their story, we're at service for them. And so we tell the story how they want to tell the story. And they're our priority, and we recognize it's their story. And so we take great like we take it like a great responsibility in telling it in the way they want it to be told through their mouth, right?
I love that. I
So
love that.
absolutely.
This one is asking, what tips would you give to someone who is getting closer to Allah?
What tips would I give
That's a
someone to
tough one.
get Allah? That's a good question. I would say is to start to learn. And I say this because one of the themes for season 2 is learning who Allah is. And one of the quotes that I shouldn't be saying this quote because I'm gonna get in trouble. But one of the things that we're going to be leading into is like, you can't love what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You can't love what
That's real.
and if you are, want to increase your ibadah, you want to increase your worship, then learn who Allah is, fall in love with Him, and that part will.
Mm, mashallah. Okay, and then we have the bashful swan here who wants a little insight on what to expect on themes and topics that will be explored in season 2. So if you can't give us the juice, it's okay, but that has been asked.
Sure. That's a good question. A lot, guys. It's so diverse. Oh my goodness.
Mashallah.
It's there's going to be concepts of knowledge, like what it means to be a woman who's pursuing knowledge, like a woman that leaves and goes to learn. There's going to
Mm-hmm.
be
Oh, that's a good one. That's a great one.
yeah, like because there isn't a lot of women who like leave. It's always like a thing that men only do, and so there's women that have done a life, let me tell you. So there's going to be stories about women who overcame incredible difficulties. And just and I'm sure you can think of issues that women normally face,
Mm-hmm.
stories that center around them, and there are a variety. Let me tell you, there are a variety of different prospects. And there's going to be a lot of women who just like our first year university, so they're reflecting on stories in high school. Because one requests were from high schoolers saying, "Hey, can you tell more stories about us in high school?" And
Sure.
like the issue was we couldn't cast stories of women under 18, only because of like we would have to their parents would have to know and all that stuff. But we were very adamant of having telling stories of people above 18. But alhamdulillah, we were able to find stories about women who experienced particular things in high school, and so it's going to be great for that audience as well. What else? We're always doing so many pre-interviews. A lot of people that talk about like how they coped through grief, through loss, love. Bro, it's the same stuff but
Everything,
different.
the same,
But different.
mashallah.
It's different perspectives.
Either way, you just got to tune in and find
Yeah,
out, but you will not be disappointed.
you will not. Not.
Inshallah, inshallah. Heather, it's been such a pleasure, an honor to speak with you. Thank you so much, so much. We will continue to follow you. We're excited for season 2. Oh, we have one other question about when are you sending out Vibe Check?
Oh,
I don't know.
very, very soon. Very soon.
Very soon, inshallah.
Very soon. They were hoping them to have them here in the next few weeks, but we're hoping to have them available, and the ones who did purchase out sent to them before Eid or by Eid. Inshallah.
Okay. So by Eid, inshallah. Again, thank you so much for engaging with us tonight. It's been such a pleasure. MashaAllah, may Allah continue to guide and protect your efforts and continue to make connections in the community, sharing these stories and letting us know we're all not alone. And this is all part of our growth, inshallah. May you continue to grow.
Thank you so much.
Take care, inshallah.
Really appreciate it. Bye,
Yeah, and thank you to everyone who tuned in. Have a good night, everyone. Salam alaikum.
guys.